This is the BiggerPockets podcast, show 252.
You're listening to BiggerPockets Radio, simplifying real estate for investors large and small. If you're here looking to learn about real estate investing without all the hype, you're in the right place. Stay tuned and be sure to join the millions of others who have benefited from BiggerPockets.com, your home for real estate investing online.
What's going on, everybody? This is Josh Dorkin, host of the BiggerPockets podcast, here with my co-host, Mr. Brandon Turner. What's going on, man?
That's my name. Don't wear it out.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So you're sick, right?
I am only in the head.
Yeah.
And in the throat because I have a cold.
You sound that today.
I sound like an old lady who smoked like 70 years of her life. Yeah. I'm like that lady today.
That's fair. That's fair.
How you doing?
Nice. I'm good, man. I'm good. You know, had a little snowball fight with my kids yesterday, which
wasn't it like 80 degrees like 2 days ago.
Yeah. So this is how it went
Story
down.
Of Denver.
It was 80 degrees for a while, and then it was 80 by like 3 p.m. By midnight, it was snowing.
That's crazy.
That was insane. Forced me to go buy an air compressor because I hadn't blown out my sprinklers and had to learn how to blow out my sprinklers, which is not that hard, by the way. But yeah, man, I don't know. It's weird as a parent. There's certain moments in your life that you'll notice. And I had a moment yesterday that just caught me. I had a snowball fight with 2 of my 3 girls, and I noticed that the 3 of us, I was having more fun in this snowball fight than I had in months. Like, I was giggling, I was laughing, I was cracking up. I was so happy. I was in such a good place. It felt so good. That's what life's about, man. Trying to find those places and trying to have as many of those as possible. So that was awesome.
And that's why we do what we do at BiggerPockets, right? Like,
right. That's right.
Like Josh and I, we've been doing this, 4.5 years now? Like we both know, I mean, even though we spend a lot of time working on BiggerPockets stuff, we both know what financial freedom's like the ability to, you don't have to do what you want. You can spend those times with the kids. You can spend those time doing that. And we just want to communicate that to everybody else. You can do this. I believe real estate's probably the single best way to get there. But there's if you don't like real estate, go do business or, go sell Girl Scout cookies or whatever. But work towards it. Live proactively.
Girl Scout cookies as a path to financial independence. I would love to see somebody accomplish that.
I'm sure it's possible.
It's called the Girl Scouts of America.
Yeah, actually, they make a lot of money. So anyway, go, live proactively, pursue financial freedom. So when you have kids, or maybe you already have kids, or maybe you have grandkids coming up, you can spend that time with them and not have some boss telling you, no, you can't go, you can't do this, you can't do this. So get out there, hustle, do it. And that is today's quick tip. You like that? That was a quick tip.
That is quick tip. But it is also, 30 days into the 90-day challenge?
The official quick tip is, we are 30 days in roughly into the 90-day challenge, which we hosted a month ago. I hosted a special podcast.
There's 60 days left in the year.
Yeah, there's 60 days left in the year, which means if you're trying to do a big goal by the end of the year, take a look at your goals right now. Say, where am I? Am I on track? And if not, step on the gas and get there. And if you're ahead of pace, then double your goal. So 60 days left. Crush it.
Awesome. Cool, man. Well, today we've got a cool show today. I'm excited about this. Today's show is not going to appeal to everybody. I do think this is more of a newbie / millennial show. To be fair.
All right. So what's millennials? 30? Am I a millennial at 32?
I actually think it's 35 and under is technically what it is, but I'd say you could qualify for this one.
Based on mentality alone. I get trophies just for participating.
Yes, you do.
All right. So anybody under who's younger-ish, under 35 will probably love this. If you're older, you're going to get a lot out of this too, because there's a lot of wisdom in our guest today. Talks about house hacking, talks about frugality, talks about how to make more income. Actually, that he talked about this car rental service thingy, and
it's crazy.
My mind just is I'm not going to rent out my car necessarily, but the idea of when I travel somewhere, I'm going to totally start doing that, just renting people's cars.
Oh, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah, right? I think that's a cool idea. So anyway.
So we've dubbed it kind of life hacking, right?
Life hacking, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if but that's kind of how we look at it. And so, it's great, fascinating. And, the show is not just for those folks. If you're a parent, you should listen because, there's some good pearls of wisdom that you could pass along to your kids or your grandkids, things like that. So, anyway, this is show 252 of the Bigger Pockets podcast. Check out the show notes at biggerpockets.com/show 252. Also, we do ask from time to time for your help in spreading the word on the Bigger Pockets podcast.
From time to time?
Often.
I think from often?
Okay, 80%, give or take, of the shows.
80?
But it's probably 85 or 90. But, so we're asking for your help in spreading the word. And what we want from you is to leave us a rating review on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, wherever you're listening to the show. Leave us a rating review. Let us know how we're doing. Also, if you have never told your friends, your family, your coworkers about the podcast, tell them, share it on social media. This show can change people's lives. We see it day in and day out. And, if you're finding value, then let everyone else know, because the more people who can live the life that you want to live and you want your friends and family to live, the better. Yep. Is that it, man? Should we do this?
Let's do it. Let's bring him
in. All right, guys. Today's guest is Craig Curelop. Craig is an employee here at BiggerPockets and
team member. Josh, team member.
He is a team member, and he is house hacking and life hacking and just doing all sorts of really interesting stuff. So let's bring him in. Craig, welcome to the show, man. It's good to have you here.
Hey, thanks for being here, man. Dreams really do come true.
I like how he says
this is part of the master plan.
I like how he says thanks for being here. Like this is Craig's show, which we all know it is. This is
it is a Craig show. We should actually rename the podcast, I think.
Instead of the Bigger Pockets podcast, the Craig podcast.
That's the Craig podcast. It's got a nice ring to it.
This is the Craig's podcast show.
Nice.
What are we? 52?
Yeah, it's 252.
Wow.
252. Wow. All right, man. So as we mentioned in the opening, Craig, you work for BiggerPockets and you are doing all sorts of really interesting stuff for somebody your age. When you told us what you did, which we've dubbed life hacking, we're like, we got to get this guy on the show so other people can just kind of hear what you're talking about. So let's dive in and get into this. How, why, what's the story about you and real estate? Like how did real estate kind of come to mind for you? And how'd you begin this journey into this life hacking thing?
Yeah. So to be honest, I actually never thought 3 years ago, if you told me that I was going to be in real estate, I would say you're an absolute liar. I started
out. Boss, dude. You should watch yourself.
Hey,
everything I said before that this is a safe place.
This is not
true.
Place.
Not true anymore. All right. Well, in that case, I'm going to go Grant Cardone times 10. Yeah, but no. So I started basically. I graduated college and I was working out in Silicon Valley. And I didn't love it, didn't love the lifestyle or anything like that. It really hit me when it was probably last June, and I had like a girlfriend at the time, and we were it was like a Sunday night, and it was the last time I was going to see her for a really long time. And my boss calls me, and he basically tells me that, hey, you got to get this thing out by tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Eastern time, and I'm on the West Coast, right? So effectively, I had to get that done tonight. And it was the last time I was going to see this girl for a while, so I felt like that was kind of like a preview of like the rest of my life if I was going to stay in that field. So from there, I was like, okay, there has to be a better way out. And so I looked up real estate, basically, right? And BiggerPockets comes up, and I said, nah, BiggerPockets is a total sham. No way, this can't be true.
Wow, whoa.
Right? This is my first thought of real estate, because that's kind of my what I thought of real estate investors before. And so I type in on Amazon.com real estate book, and the book on rental property investing comes up. So I bought the book on Amazon. I read it. And as I was reading it, I noticed that, they were touting BiggerPockets all the time. And I was like, oh, if they're touting it in this book, it must be real. It must be legit. So I went on and there it goes. It kind of changed my life. I started reading the articles. Brandon, I watched a ton of your webinars.
Nice.
Listened to the podcast.
I didn't know any of this. This is funny. I didn't
either.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I've got like vigorous notes of like 40 of your webinars. And then I realized that I was writing the same thing over and over. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe
Yep.
Maybe I should have stopped at 10 or 20, but it got into my brain.
That's awesome.
And what really sealed the deal for me is I was in the Bay Area, like I said, and there was this Bay Area Summit, which I actually just came back from this past weekend. But last year I went, and after listening to those guys and meeting all those people, I kind of lit a fire under my butt, and I was like, I'm doing this. It's it. Yep. And so for the next 3 or 4 months, I did my research. I took a little trip. Then I came back from the trip, and I applied to 250 jobs that next weekend. And one of them was BiggerPockets.
Wait a second. Hold on a second here. Because when I hired you, you led me to believe that this was the only job that you applied to.
I'm a good actor, aren't I?
Wow. False pretenses. Jeez, man.
Put the past behind us.
No, I don't know about that. Let's dive into this for a second here. You actually applied to 250 different jobs?
I was reading Grant Cardone's 10X. My original goal was 25 that weekend, but then I was like, 10X, 250. Wow. And so I, honestly, 249 of those were in Florida because I originally thought I wanted to start investing in Florida. But then I saw BiggerPockets was hiring for a position that I thought I was qualified for. And I said, there's no way to let this go. So I got the one job I applied for in Denver, and here we are today.
That's awesome.
Wow. All right, so you're here. You work for BP, which is great, but that means nothing. Now he has vigorous notes.
What do you do for BP? In case people are curious, like what is your role?
Yeah, so I'm the finance guy here. Basically, I put together the model, the financial model, the projections. I'm going to be looking for new revenue opportunities in the next few months. All that kind of stuff.
Nice.
All the finance stuff. I'm a numbers guy.
Numbers guy. Good. Yeah. Well, we need numbers guy. I know, any business like that. Like that's not my strong suit. I don't think that's Josh's strong suit. Like you got to have that guy. So good job. Thank you for being here.
What is Josh's strong suit?
I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that one out.
Wow. Oh, damn.
We've got a few years trying to figure this out.
We're working on it.
Wow. You are heeding the advice to go bold on your boss while you got a safe space. Look at you, man. Yeah. Good for you. All right, man. Let's dive into this, right? You've got this job. You just told us the sob story about how you left San Francisco and you came here to Colorado, which was a good move, by the way. And now what, right? I mean, you've got 40 webinars worth of vigorous notes. When do you decide to pull the trigger? Do you pull the trigger?
Yeah, so once I moved out here, basically, I had a list of things to do. And, the first thing on my list was to buy a property. And so, that was like my one thing, as, Gary Keller would say. And so I talked to a bunch of agents. I talked to a bunch of lenders, probably about 5 or 6 of each, figured out which one would work for me the best. And from there, I had properties coming in every day. I was looking at each one, going to see each one. And one came across my desk that looked interesting to me. It was a duplex about 1.5 miles from the office, completely renovated. So I wouldn't have to do too much work to it. I could focus on the thing I came here to do, which was work for BiggerPockets, and I could still house hack it. And so that's kind of what I put an offer on it, and I actually got it below listing price in Denver, which for those of you who know the Denver market is kind of unheard of at this time. And everything went fairly smoothly.
All right. For those people, you said the word house hack it. For those people, now a lot of people know what that means, but for those this is the first time hearing that phrase, house hacking. What is that? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so house hacking is a term that BiggerPockets coined, I believe, and
I think it was Brandon that actually coined it. In fact, I know it was Brandon that coined it.
I don't know.
Brandon coined it. So that's why he's telling us to explain it. He wants a little bit of
I didn't say a word. I wasn't gonna go there. Josh is like my wingman. It's great.
we share a brain from time to
time.
Yeah. It's when intelligent things come out, at least.
That's when Brandon says intelligent things, right?
he is good. I like this guy. All right. Anyway, so house hacking is what?
So house hacking is when you buy a duplex, triplex, or a small multifamily with a presumably a small down payment loan, such as like a 3.5% FHA, and it's owner occupied. And so you're living in one unit and renting out the other. So you have some of the tenants helping you out pay your mortgage, or ideally they are paying your mortgage. So you get to live for free while building equity in the property. And you also gain a lot of that landlording experience and all of that kind of stuff. And it's just it's a great way to start out as your first property.
Love it.
All right. So I liked a lot of what you said, especially the part where you ripped on Brandon. But The interesting thing you said was when you came out to Colorado, you had a list of things you had to accomplish. And number one on that list was I need to buy a rental property, right? That's great. I think that's the kind of mindset that you need in order to actually buy a rental property. I mean, it's so easy to look at the landscape and say, oh, I'm going to buy a property one day. I really want to buy a property. I should buy a property. It's very different than saying, you know what? I read the one thing, which is not necessary, but okay, I read this book. This book told me to prioritize my life. And so I said, my one thing right now is going to be to find this property. And that's what you did. So for those newbies who might be stuck or lost or confused, like, hey, floating around trying to figure out how to shift over to that mindset. Do you have any advice for them?
Yeah, I would say just take it one step at a time, really. I mean, the first step to buying a property is to find a lender and to find an agent. Those are the two guys you need. Yeah. BiggerPockets, a lot of people on there say you need to build out this whole team. To buy a house hack, you don't need a whole team. You need a lender and you need an agent. Yep. And once you get those guys, they're going to start sending you properties. They're going to start following up with you. And now you're kind of accountable. Those guys are holding you accountable to get this deal done. And so once you start getting other people involved, then it's the real deal. So I would say just take that first step in engaging that lender, engaging the agent.
I love that because from what most people do, they learn, they read, they have all these things, but nothing really drives them to move forward. But as soon as you have that agent, especially, like all of a sudden then you start getting deals, or even if it's a good agent, they're following up with you, they're encouraging you, they're answering questions. It becomes a lot more legit there. So I want to actually just throw out a challenge to everybody listening to this right now. But if you do not have an agent right now, if you're trying to get your first deal, you want to buy a real estate property, maybe you want a house hack like Craig here, and you don't have an agent, stop right now what you're doing. If you're driving, pull over to the side of the road, or be safe. Pause this for a second. Go on Facebook and ask your family and friends for a recommendation for an agent. It's the easiest way to find an agent is to ask for recommendations from everybody on Facebook. You'll find a bunch. They'll offer you a bunch of suggestions of people, and then sit down and talk with them. So on that note, Craig, what did they say when somebody goes and tries to find an agent? How did you find a good one? What kind of questions do you ask? How do you go about that?
So honestly, the way I did it was I asked some people here in Denver that I knew, and I also went on BiggerPockets and I went to the message board and I just reached out and messaged, say, hey, I'm interested in buying a property. Would you mind meeting for coffee? And some of the questions you ask are just, how many deals have you done? How long have you been an agent? I like to ask if they're an investor themselves. What are some things they look for in property? Stuff like that. Nothing crazy. And also you want to get a feel for, you want to be able to get along with this person too. So, make sure that you guys are, amicable with each other. And yeah, it's not nothing too crazy.
That's awesome.
So this is how you went and found an agent. And I think it's great advice, right? So you did all that. What about a lender? You said lender was the other thing essential for getting going on a house hack. How do you find a good lender as a newbie real estate investor?
So again, I think the number one way is just through recommendations. So if you know anyone else who is a landlord or who has purchased a property, go ask them, see how their lender was. Or you can go on BiggerPockets again and just reach out and say, hey, I'm looking for a lender in XYZ area. And there will be a lot of lenders coming to you, and field those calls. Don't just ask one lender. Even though these loans get sold off to Fannie and Freddie, you'd be surprised what different lenders can do for you. So just make sure that you guys do your research and do your diligence, get 5 or 6 different lenders and see what they can offer you.
I will offer one caveat there. Keep in mind that the marketplace on BiggerPockets, just give it more detail. That's where you guys want to go. If you guys are looking for a lender, and instead of doing, spamming all the forums, the marketplace is where that's done. So go to the marketplace and make a post and say, hey, I'm looking for a lender in this area. Does anybody have any recommendations? And you'll find some good connections that way. So cool.
Well, hold on. So you'll find the connections, but how do you know if somebody's actually legit? How do you know if somebody's good? How do you know if, you found the right one as somebody who may not know what you're doing?
I can answer that actually. All you do is you look for the guys that tell you to wire transfer over $1,000 funding fee to some nation overseas. That's what you want to look for.
Okay. Yeah. That was facetiousness for those of you who did not.
Who can't pick up on sarcasm. I don't.
Yeah, I'm still waiting on my return from Nigeria.
Yeah, good. All right. So anyway,
Go ahead.
Yeah. So to figure out which lender is right for you, basically you have to have the criteria you're looking for. One, again, I like people that I can kind of get along with, which I know may be hard to find, but there are a few people out there. The other thing is, I was really looking for kind of like the cheapest loan. And so, I was talking to 2 or 3 different lenders at the end, after getting pre-qualified and all of that. And, they were all very, very close. They all offered me the same rate and they all offered me very similar things. But, it was a guy who I had like the best relationship with that I ended up going through with at the end. And so that's kind of, he answered all of my dumb questions, and don't be afraid to ask those dumb questions either. These guys are pros at first time home buyer, situations. So ask the questions and they'll answer them and they won't make you feel stupid.
Awesome. Speaking of stupid questions, I have one that I think may be a stupid question, but if you're shopping around for lenders, does that potentially hurt your credit?
So you will get one hard credit pull that will affect your credit score. But if you shop around for 5 or 6, it will only count once. As long as you do it within a 30-day period, it will only count as one hard credit pull. So don't worry about your credit score in that regard.
Yeah.
Nice.
Good advice. And
well done.
By the way, I like what you said there about like you went with the guy you had the best relationship with. Here's what I've always found with lending is that almost every lender can do the same thing because they're all abiding generally, at least in the residential area, they're all abiding by the same Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac guidelines. The question is, what lender is going to be the guy that is ambitious enough to like work through the process and that you get along with well isn't going to leave you hanging.
Awesome. All right. So, Craig, what did the numbers actually look like, and why house hack versus just like renting an apartment or buying a house to live in or a condo or something?
So I wanted the house hack one because, again, I wanted the landlord experience, and my intentions are to buy a property 1 or 2 a year each year for the next forever. So that's really why I wanted the house hack, and because of the low down payment and how you can use some of the rental income to help you qualify for that mortgage. So that was why I went with the house hack of the duplex. Do you want me to go into the numbers now?
Sure. Yeah, let's dive in on that.
So the numbers. I purchased the property for $385,000, 3.5% down after closing costs. I was all in for just under $20,000, and there wasn't any work needed or anything like that. I closed on June 16th at 9 a.m. and I had a lease.
What? How many seconds?
9 a.m. and 42 seconds.
Nice.
And I had a lease signed at noon that same day.
Wow.
So I was working through, finding a tenant during the closing process. Now, I warn you, I recommend that everyone do that so you limit your vacancy time. However, just be careful because you cannot have a lease signed before you own the property. So make sure that lease signing comes after you close on the property.
That's a really good tip. I've never heard anybody say that before about finding a tenant before closing. I've never done that. That's super smart. I'm going to start doing that like when I buy properties. Now, granted, most of my properties are rehabs. Yours was already completed, right? So that makes the biggest difference there.
Yeah, mine was already completed. So it definitely makes it a little bit easier. You could still show it to them and say, hey, this is going to be totally rehabbed or whatever. And maybe that will help, maybe not. But yeah.
On the same note, when I'm rehabbing a property, I think it's a good idea. Like you start getting people interested just by doing work on it. People see work's being done and they ask about it. And I've had times where I've been remodeling a property and then got it rented before I ever finished the rehab. So that's again, whatever you can do to minimize that vacancy. Like I don't think people realize like vacancy. I wrote a blog post a long time ago called like vacancy is like the silent killer of a real estate deal.
That's a cost.
It is a huge cost. Huge. Yeah. I mean, if you have 5 or 10% of you, like if you go an extra month long on a vacancy, I mean, that's almost 10% of your entire income for the year, and your expenses are still running that same time. So, and sometimes even more expenses because you got to pay the water, sewer, garbage, all that stuff during that time. So, So anyway,
exactly.
So let's go. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Well, if you're in a flip too, it kind of, or if you're fixing it up, a lot of times the tenants are seeing you do the work and they're going to know they're getting a new property, or not maybe a new property, but
remodeled.
A lot of the things, remodeled property, and a lot of them like that. They want to be the first one in of that new property, So
they don't have to use somebody else's toilet.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so let's talk about. I want to dig into the numbers a little bit more. So so you bought it for $385. You did an FHA loan, which is 3.5% down. What was your mortgage payment, and then what are you renting the other half out for? the other side.
So my PITI is just shy of 2,300.
And PITI is what for those who don't know?
Principal, interest, taxes, and insurance.
All right, so it's like the whole payment.
So the whole payment is about 2,300.
Okay.
Now I rent the top out for 1,750.
Okay.
And so there's a little bit of spread there that I would need to cover.
Yep.
And so basically where it's just shy of $500. And so where that comes from is I also Airbnb out my room in my property. And so the difference there, that more than makes up the difference of that, 500 or so bucks that I'm losing there.
Okay. So we want to talk about that, right?
We do. And before we do, like, I want people to understand this unit because I haven't seen the unit, but I know the building. I know your neighbor. So the upstairs unit is actually ground level. The downstairs unit that you talk about, which is the unit that you're living in, is subterranean, right? You're living underground in a cave.
Correct. There's actually bats hanging from my ceiling as well.
I'm Batman.
Yeah.
Nice. And so the best unit you're currently renting out, right? Yep. And then you're living in the less good unit. And on top of living in the less good unit, you're Airbnb-ing it. And how does that work? How do you Airbnb a unit that you're living in? Is it a 2-bedroom, 1-bedroom? Okay. What is that?
So they're both 1-bedroom apartments, 1 bed, 1 bath. And so basically what I've done is I've Airbnb'd out my bedroom and I've made a pseudo bedroom out of my living room. And so I've put up like, some room dividers and a curtain and all that kind of stuff and a nice bed. Like I still sleep very comfortably. And so I'm able to Airbnb out my bedroom, sleep in the living room, and still have enough space for everything. And the Airbnb brings me in. I've only been doing it for about 4 months now, but on average it's bringing in about $1,100 a month. So, and that's for a shared space.
Is that weird having people stay like with you like that? Like, is it weird for them? Is it weird for you?
No. So honestly, I thought it would be weird at first. But I actually love it because I get to meet people. Like it's really cool people traveling from all around the world, right? So I just had a woman from Germany stay in my place, a couple from Australia. So I'm meeting like awesome people, and it's my favorite part. I actually love it. I have no problem sleeping, out in the living room. Like sure, the first day may have been uncomfortable, but it's all about like getting out of your comfort zone, right? And once you get after the 4th, 5th day, now I almost prefer to sleep in the living room. Last night, no one was there. Last night, no one was there. I slept in my living room.
That's fun.
So,
wow, that's awesome. So you're living in the living room. Your Airbnb is bringing in $1,100 a month. Your top unit's taking in $1,750. So you're at $2,900. Call it a month. Your PITI is $2,300. Your vacancy rate. Well, I mean, you factor all that in. You're in the black. You're living for free.
Yeah, I mean, living for free, even netting a little bit. Just because the tenants upstairs actually signed a 2-year lease, so I won't be having vacancy for 2 years. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
And it's just those Airbnb stuff that I have to kind of worry about, which has been fine.
Wow.
So go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, I'm assuming you have friends. I've never seen any of them, but I'm assuming you have friends. Like,
they're in low places.
what do they say? Like, do they come over? And if not, like, what do they say? Like, how does this, conversation go with your pals, like about this whole setup that you got going on there? And yeah, I'm just curious how people respond.
Yeah, I mean, so most people think I'm nuts, which is probably half true. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. The way I kind of look at it is these people, like, I'm doing things that people aren't doing so I can kind of live a life that I want to live in a very short amount of time.
Sure.
Right. Like I really want to get on that fast track to financial freedom. And, just by renting or if I were to buy the place and not rent it out, I'd be losing potential $1,000, $1,100 a month. You know what I mean? So that's just putting me on the fast track to financial freedom. And so that's kind of how I see it. Now, I don't really have people come over my place. I go to their place, which I prefer anyway. And also it helps me. It kind of forces me to keep the place clean. So that also
this must be great for your dating life.
Oh, great! Yeah, the ladies love coming over and seeing someone else there as well.
Seeing the German couple.
Yeah, the German one.
Seeing the German couple. Yeah,
that's funny. All right, so I mean, it's a cool strategy, right? You're maximizing every bit of income you can make out of that place. What about? I mean, a lot of people are listening to this right now, going, "Look, I'm okay with a house hack. I'm okay buying a duplex or triplex and living in one unit, but I'm not going to have somebody live with me. So I'm going to shut this podcast off right now because I just can't do that." So for those people who are not going to rent out their bedroom, right? Let's talk about that for a minute. Is it a bad idea, in your opinion, to house hack, even if you can't live for free? If you had to pay that $500 or $600 a month personally, would you still do it, and why?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, right? So, a comparable rent in Denver for a 1-bedroom apartment is probably going to go for $1,200 or $1,300.
Yep.
So I'm paying $500 in rent,
Yep.
to myself, right? So I am paying myself, and so I'm still building. I'm building equity in the property as I make those rental payments to myself. So it makes tons and tons of sense to do this either way, even if you don't want to, do what I'm doing and live in your living room, which is understandable.
Yeah. So the cost to you to do this, let's say you don't have a roommate or several per month. It's cheaper than having a condo. It's cheaper than renting out somebody else's apartment. It just net puts you ahead, right?
Yep, 100%.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Well, that's great. Congrats on the success. I couldn't do it. Maybe I could have done it at your age. And how old are you, by the way?
I'm 24. So that's kind of another thing is I think everybody's kind of has a unique advantage in their life, and you kind of have to. Yeah. And I looked at mine and I said, you know what? I'm young and I'm single and I'm a guy, so I have absolutely no problem taking advantage of all of those situations and doing what I'm doing right now. And as my life changes, I'm absolutely going to not be doing this for the rest of my life. But
all right, and you say the guy thing because as a female, there's some safety concerns there potentially, right?
Yeah, there are some safety concerns, and I'm not saying that females cannot do this. If you're a female, you absolutely can do this. It's just a matter of if you feel safe potentially defending yourself if a stranger does come in your home. Now, Airbnb does a very good job at screening all of their guests and all of that, and I have never had the slightest problem, and I've never heard of anyone have a problem. But just in the event there is one, just be careful.
Makes a lot of sense.
Really quick before we go on to the next stuff, Airbnb, there are certain cities that are pretty hardcore with what you can and can't do with Airbnb, and I know Denver happens to be one of them. I believe in Denver, you're only allowed to rent out a property once in a 30-day period. I think I'm not butchering that factoid. How do you get around that, and is that true?
Yeah. So that's correct. In Denver, you cannot. Basically, short-term rentals, they don't really allow you to do short-term rentals unless you are living in the property. So even that property, even the duplex, the first half of it, the top half, I would not be able to put that on Airbnb unless it's for 30 days or more.
Got it.
So that's the way Denver works. But since it's in my primary residence and I live there, there's no issue with the Airbnb laws here.
Interesting.
Are you? I know you were just home with your family for a couple of weeks. Are you renting out the place while you're out of town as well? Fully renting it out?
Yep. So I'm renting it out when I'm out of town. It was pretty much full the whole time I was gone. And I just have I have a cleaning lady come in and check on the place and obviously clean the sheets, all that kind of stuff. And she gives me an update, sends me some pictures when she's done. I issue her payment, and we're on to the next guest.
How'd you find the cleaning lady?
How did I find this cleaning lady? I think I just went on Craigslist and I looked at a few of them, and there were some
responded. He was I did the job.
And, Good job, Josh.
Thank you. I got you. Josh, you lost me on that one there. I was like, what? Yeah, I just called Josh up and he came over to clean.
Yeah. He does all my cleaning as well. He's really helpful.
He is pretty good, isn't he?
He is. All right, so you went Craigslist. That's cool.
Yes. So I went on Craigslist. Again, talked to 3 or 4 different. Everyone I talked to, it's 3 or 4 different cleaning ladies, and I kind of went with the best price. I met with a few of them, called them, and just whatever one I felt I got the best feeling from is the one I picked.
That's cool.
And so I would recommend, if you are doing this, ask for recommendations too, and call those recommendations. And so make sure that she has customers, and make sure that she is a good human being, because she's going to be in your apartment with your stuff there. So
there you go.
Yeah. And there might be some he's occasionally as well, obviously, but yeah. So, all right. So you're house hacking, and I use the term life hack at the upfront. So you're doing some pretty interesting stuff here, right? I mean, you're renting the place out when you're gone. You're renting your place out while you're there. You've got tenants. What else? Why would I say you're life hacking? You're doing something next level here, right? I mean, you're taking some of your liabilities and using those to your advantage as well, aren't you?
Yeah, right. So typical rich dad, poor dad mantra, right, is if you haven't a quote unquote anything that's taking money out of your pocket, it's a liability. If it's putting money in your pocket, it's an asset. And so because I bought this property a mile and a half from work, I was riding my bike to work every day. And as I ride my bike, I would drive by my car, and my car was just sitting in the driveway, and I'm still paying insurance for it. I'm still paying, some maintenance on it, whatever it is. And so that was a liability to me. So I decided I need to figure how can I make money out of this car? And so how can I turn this liability into an asset? And there's a site out there called Turo, Turo. And basically what that is, it's an Airbnb, but for cars. And so I listed my car up on that site, and now I am renting my car out as well.
That's awesome. What do you get for a car rental?
So a car rental, obviously it's a little bit less than a Airbnb, but for that, on the peak months where it's about like $700 to $800 a month.
Wow. And do people rent it? What are they renting it for? They just don't want to rent from like a, enterprise or something?
Yeah, well, so it's much cheaper than like an enterprise or whatever that is, right? And a lot in there, especially for those who are under 25, they don't have the huge under 25 fees. There's a small fee, but not significant.
Interesting.
And so I think it goes to be like it depends. It changes, but it's typically between $35 and $45 a day. And so, yeah, and also it's it's a Toyota Prius, so it's great on gas, good for around the city. I always advise people not to drive in the mountains with it because they probably won't come back. But
that was my old car. Yeah, I used to have that car. So you have this app, right? People will literally go pick up your vehicle from in front of your home. They'll take it from the street, and they return it, whenever, next day, same day, and you get your $35, $45 put in your account.
Yeah, sometimes it's a couple of weeks. It ranges from a day to a couple of weeks. It could even be a month if they wanted to.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. So
Now, does Turo, have guarantees? If somebody's gonna, start smoking in your car or mess it up. I mean, I'm assuming they've got all the insurance stuff and everything else kind of handled, right?
Yep, they have all the insurance handled. You can take pictures before and after, and the driver is highly encouraged to take pictures before and after. And so, if there's any differences in the car from each ride, the pictures will show it, or you go in and see it, and then you can file a claim through Turo, and they'll cover you. Without the drivers, Turo would be not without the drivers. Without the listings, the car listings, Turo wouldn't exist. So they need to protect the people who list the cars.
Have you had any bad experiences at all that you've had to make a claim, or no?
No, I haven't had any bad experiences with Turo.
Or drivers?
Nothing yet. It's been some drivers are more of a pain than the others. They get, especially the first time drivers, they can be a little bit scared or a little bit weary of what's going on. But once they're done, they're usually like, "Oh, this is much easier than I expected. This is great. Thank you so much." And
nice.
Most people are very happy. Yeah.
So you're bringing in, you're $1,100 a month on your Airbnb, $1,750 in rent. You got, some of your costs on the property. Then you're renting this car out for $700 to $800 a month, and I pay you $6 a day. I mean, this sounds pretty good.
Yeah, $6 a day. I think I might need a raise sometime soon. What do you think?
No, but I mean, that's awesome, man. At 24, you've literally figured out a way to build your life, and in a way where it's not too obstructive to how you want to live, and you're generating all this income off of your just everyday doings, right, and happenings, and that's amazing. Are you? Is there like an app to rent out your clothes that you're also doing? I mean,
yeah, I was looking to try to rent out my clothes. I don't know if anyone wants my underwear, but we can see.
I'm gonna have to
I'll take it. There's some holes in it, if that's okay.
Oh, come on. No, it's a little too far. Awesome, man. So, all right.
There's no such thing, Josh. No such thing.
Yeah, there really isn't. Is that the extent of the life hacking?
I think the extent of the life hacking would be that, I go live under a bridge with, in my sleeping bag or in a tent.
No, but I mean, you're also frugal, right? I forgot about that part. Yeah. Like you're able to put away a ton of cash because not only are you doing all this stuff, but you're super frugal in just everything that you do, right?
Yeah, so I'm super frugal. I don't go out to eat much. I don't drink. I kind of stick to what it is. And sometimes, and I still do go out. Don't get me wrong. Like I think having fun is a great part of life, and I love to travel and do all those things. And I do spend money, but I just kind of, I'm a little more strategic about how I spend my money and what I spend my money on and all that kind of stuff. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So that's great. This is very set for life-ish, isn't it?
It is very set for life-ish, and it's a great. I mean, you guys should all. If you haven't read that book yet, what are you guys doing? I mean, that's kind of the first step, right?
Yeah.
You guys got to get on BiggerPockets right now and buy that book.
Well, what I love about Set for Life, the book that Scott Trench wrote, is that it kind of opens up the idea that like. A lot of like financial gurus out there are saying, stop drinking so much Starbucks, stop drinking or eating avocado toast. That's why millennials are all broke is because of avocado toast or whatever, right?
Yeah, I don't even know what that is.
I don't even know either, but there's a big article about it recently. But the truth is like, it's not the little things typically that are making people broke and poor. It's their massive house payment is the main thing, followed by their massive car payment. Like those two things alone. And then the insurance that comes with that. And like, it's those things that drive people. So if you can maximize just a few areas of your life or minimize a few areas of your life, you can still enjoy the fun things in life. You just find a way to not have that massive $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month payment just to live.
But it's not just that, right? I mean, like if you like Craig, I see Craig every day in the kitchen, like cutting up his own lunch, right? He cooks his dinner and he preps his lunch the next day, which saves him $10 to $12 a day on dining out. We got a lot of people here in the office who they eat out every day.
Yep.
Right. And Craig is always eating his own food. Like that's a lot of money. I mean, it adds up if you do that. You're talking $2 to $3 versus 12, 14, whatever it is. Right.
Yeah.
So it's the whole lifestyle in general, right? It's looking at everything that you do. It's, my wife doesn't drink alcohol. Right. So I pretty much stopped drinking alcohol. When I would go out with my friends and we'd split the check, the difference between my check and their check is, $30, $40, $50 per meal.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're paying for booze.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, one thing kind of how I looked at it too was, you go out to eat and you're spending $12 and you say maybe one of my meals costs $4, right? And I'm probably getting an equivalent amount of food, if not more, with my meal. And I just don't think there's any way in hell that their food is 3 times better than my food. So that's kind of how I look at it. Is it's not worth going out to eat,
Yeah.
So it's just everything, right? I mean, again, at the end of the day, the frugality is it doesn't mean being cheap. Like I've never seen Craig be cheap, but it's hey, I'm gonna think about how I construct my life. I'm gonna live close to work, hop on a bike, get exercise every single day, right? Yeah. Get fit, get in shape, and save on gas and save on car maintenance, and then use the car for big trips or other things that I need. It's just a mindset thing. That's all, isn't it?
Yeah. The way I look at it, the way I think life is, it's 10% what happens and 90% how you think of it, where your mindset is. And so as long as you can get your head right, you can do anything really. It's just kind of taking things one step at a time. And, maybe you're not doing all the things all at once, right? Or maybe you don't stop drinking or stop going out to eat all the time. Maybe you only go out to eat 2 times a week. And then after that becomes more comfortable for you, you go out to eat 1 time a week. And then you just slowly kind of wane off of it. Going cold turkey is it's much more harder than just kind of weaning off.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That makes sense. So here's a big question kind of to wrap up this part of the podcast. Why? Why be frugal? Why cut your expenses? Why not eat
good question.
the avocado toast? Or maybe you do. Why house hack? I mean, why can't we just enjoy life and just live and spend our money? We make a certain amount, we spend that much. Like, what's the point? What are you trying to do here?
It all boils down to just achieving that financial freedom at a relatively early age, right? So in your late 20s, early 30s, and being able to kind of spend the rest of your life doing whatever it is that you want to do, travel. Brandon, like you with your daughter, right? Like you want to be able to see her first steps and all that. Like I want to be able to see my kids' first steps, go to all their plays, attend all their baseball games, do all these things that, a lot of parents aren't able to do because, they have to work or, they got to do this, they got to do that. Like I think you have to figure out what's the most important thing in your life and figure out how you can, do those most important things to you.
How are you going to do that? Because, you better work.
You gotta work at BiggerPockets forever.
Forever. No.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. But and like Brandon, we give him the flexibility to do that stuff, right? I mean, that's one of the nice things here. But what does your plan look like, right? You're 24. You're in your first duplex. I know you well enough to know you have a plan, right? So you didn't just say, "Hey, I'm going to go on one thing, get that first duplex, and then I'm done." You know the next 6 steps that you've got in mind. So what are those, and how do you construct this plan for yourself?
So my next step now is just keep saving, and kind of figuring out other ways that I can make additional income, and just to save up for that next down payment on the next house hack or next property, and do that. My goal is to be able to double my units next year and the year after. So go from 2 this year to 4 next year to 8 the year after that. Then if and then you have all your investments working for you too. So then you can save, and and theoretically, hopefully, I might have to talk to Josh a little more, but hopefully I'll be making a little bit more in the next couple of years as well. And then I'll be able to save more, and it kind of all works on itself. Where to the point where you can easily you're saving for a down payment in a couple of months, and you can buy 2, 3, 4 properties a year, and as long as they're cash flowing properties, once that passive income stream it exceeds my expenses, that's kind of when you're free.
That's true.
So at 30, you're going to be retired, basically living off of your real estate and car rental service.
I don't know if I'll be doing the car rental service then, but yeah, I'd like to be financially free by 30, and that doesn't mean I'll be retired sitting at home with a bag of potato chips watching Dancing with the Stars or whatever. But I'll be able to pursue my passions, right? Like I'll be able to do what I love to do, and even if I'm doing something making 20 or 30 grand a year, that won't matter because I'll have enough money through my rental income.
That's awesome.
Love this, man. Absolutely brilliant.
Somebody has clearly been to a BiggerPockets webinar before.
Yeah, once or twice.
Clearly. All right. So
I don't know.
All right. So, man, all good stuff, like all around good stuff. Like, and I agree so much with like that whole idea. Like if you can minimize your expenses now, like it really opens up the world to be able to do really amazing things later. You don't have to live like, house hack forever. You don't have to do any of that forever, but it's a sacrifice for a short amount of time. If you just do it for a while, the rest of your life, Dave Ramsey has a quote that says like, if you live like no one else now, you can live like no one else later. Basically like it's a short,
exactly.
Right? Yeah. Sacrifice a little bit now if you need to. And it's not like, is it really a sacrifice? I mean, it's not like we're like cutting off our right arm or something like
it's not even a sacrifice. I enjoy it. I love it. Yeah. I love it. So it's not a sacrifice to me. When I was
what, 23, 24, 22, 23, 24, I was living in Los Angeles. And
were there dinosaurs roaming around back then?
Wow.
Josh was really sad when the last one died off. He was like, he had a lot of tears. He told me.
It's Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Yeah, it was the last one. He was like,
all right. So yes, my social security number is 1. You're funny. Ha ha ha. Okay. So I was living, and this was not crazy long ago. About almost 20 years.
Yeah, I was like in elementary school.
Diapers.
Yeah, pretty much.
So
I couldn't talk yet.
Yeah.
I was living for like $12,000 to $13,000 a year, right? And that was like right at or about the poverty line. But I was actually, I was having a good life. I was just exceptionally frugal, exceptionally
cheap.
Fair enough. I mean, spaghetti and cereal. I mean, that's all I ate, right? I mean, I didn't drive anywhere. I didn't need to go anywhere. Like life was really easy. Obviously not everybody can be in that position, but I think when you're single and young, there's certain things that you can much more easily give up and live without than once you have a spouse or children and things like that. Then you really do need to, take care of those folks.
Absolutely. Take advantage of being young and single.
There you go.
Awesome.
All right, I have one more thing before we get to the fire round. I want to push you a little bit here, Craig. So
push me.
You mentioned earlier this guy named Grant Cardone, who we recently had on the podcast, and he wrote a book called The 10X Rule about taking your goals and supersizing them. So when you say you want to buy 1 property this year and 2 next year and 4 the year after units and 8 the year after, it's great. I actually love exponential growth. What would it take to buy 20 units next year?
20 units next year.
Like what? And should you? I'm not saying you should, but what would it like? Well, let's explore that for a minute. Like why not 10x these goals and quit this job at BiggerPockets next year? Screw Josh.
I would be so happy for you if you did that, and my life would be a lot easier. So, do it.
Like what would it take? Do you think? And have you thought about that?
So yeah, I have thought about that actually, and the reason why I don't think it makes a ton of sense is just because I don't think it is I would be putting all of my eggs in this real estate basket in a time where it seems like the market is approaching a peak or at a peak. So I think doing that is not wise. And also in order to do that, I would need to syndicate, get tons and tons of investors and all that kind of stuff. And then I have, the responsibility of their money over me. And, I don't want that. I think an easier route would be just to continue working at BiggerPockets, working hard here at BiggerPockets, and hoping that compensation will follow after I just work hard. And I think that is a way to do it, in my opinion. Because I wouldn't have I could buy 20 properties next year, but they wouldn't be my 20 properties. I would have 1 property amongst 20 other individuals who would also have properties with me, right? So.
All right. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, and I don't think the 10x model necessarily like we argued with Grant this a bit. He doesn't think people should buy a house, and he thinks everyone should just buy massive properties, and that's definitely one way to go. And it's different for everyone. If you like what you do for a job, like you don't need to escape it now this year. In fact, I always recommend to people find a job you love, even if it's not find a job that you love and that's flexible. And then go invest in real estate on the side. If do what you love to do what makes you happy. And if that's syndicating apartments, then great. You should go syndicate apartment buildings. But if not, don't worry about it. So
lifestyle design, right? Build the life you wanna live. Just don't. I don't know. I saw a cool graphic or video or something on Facebook yesterday, which was, they're like, hey, the first 17 years of your life, is all about fun and learning and fun, and then you get a job, and then the next 40 years of your life, 50 years of your life is clock in, can't wait for Friday to come, enjoy your weekend as much as you can until Sunday afternoon, which you start getting angry and stressed out about the week, and then, go until Friday again, right? And then suddenly you're now 65, and you get to enjoy the fruits of your labor on the government's, Social Security and everything else. And I think we as a society are starting to realize that path is less admirable than it used to be, I guess. And especially the newer generations are seeing that. And so, build life. Build the life you want to live. Use real estate to help you out. Be smart. Be frugal. Be creative. I was in a cab last week. I was in an Uber. Sorry, wrong word. I was actually in a lift. I was in a lift last week.
He was riding one of those, like cars where you put your feet through the bottom and you walk with them.
Yeah, the little coupe car. Yeah.
Okay, and so thank you. That was funny. Haha. Yeah, and
because he's old. Get it?
And it was the morning, and I start talking to my driver. She was a teacher. She taught, I think it was like 8th grade Spanish, and she would get up in the morning 2 hours earlier before she normally would have before. She'd drive her car for Lyft. After school, she would work for 2 hours after. She didn't want to work late night with drunk people and things like that. She just, wanted those time blocks and was making, a supplemental income on top of what she wanted to help her move down to Mexico, which was her dream, was go down to Mexico and teach down there. And so, yeah, I mean, the world is very different than it used to be, and we can kind of make it our own. And I definitely encourage people to do that, which is why I wanted to have you on the podcast, man. It's a great story. Let's move on to the fireman.
The fireman.
Let's move to the fire round.
Time for the fire round.
All right, let's jump into this. Of course, this is the fire round. These questions come direct out of the BiggerPockets forums, which I know, Craig, you're engaged in all the time. So, number 1, do I need to disclose to my roommates that I'm the landlord and owner? So it sounds like this person is house hacking, like a house, or they rent out their bedrooms. Do I need to tell the roommates that I'm the landlord and the owner, or can they just simply pay me, assuming that I'm just another renter and that I'm the one in charge paying the landlord?
So technically, absolutely, you do not need to tell them that you are the landlord, and you can pretend like you are kind of the head tenant and you're going to just send that money off to someone else. However, when they find out, it might make living a little bit awkward. Yeah. So I would recommend just, don't be sketchy and just let them know, and just let them know what you're doing. And most people aren't out to screw you. So just let them know and tell them what you're doing, why you're doing it, and maybe they'll go out and do the same thing. I mean, I think you got to help people out, and it will come back definitely. Karma.
There you go. All right. Easy answer on this one. Is it a good deal to get a duplex for the purpose of house hacking if you're paying a small amount from your pocket every month to cover all costs? I think we know the answer to that one.
Yeah, 100%. Yes, you're paying yourself, so it's easier. Cool.
All right. Next question. Has anyone put a keg?
I was going to pick that one.
Has anyone put a kegerator in their Airbnb? Is a kegerator like the thing that works with a keg, I'm assuming?
Yes.
All right.
Yes. You literally would have a keg tap in your Airbnb. That's interesting. Has your Airbnb become like a free bar?
Free bar? I have not ever thought of that. I have not seen it. I would not do it, but I don't see why you wouldn't do it. If you have a place on the beach somewhere, or in the mountains, and you want people to have a beer when they're done hiking or something, I don't see why it would be a bad idea.
I would talk to your lawyer first about
what if there's
any kind of liability.
Talk to your lawyer. I don't know anything about liability or anything like that. I'm a 24-year-old speaking, hey, a kegerator sounds pretty cool. So
Awesome. All right. Let's see. This question, which makes no sense in this context, but what would you recommend? A pool, a hot tub, or none on a rental property?
On a rental property,
sure.
I would recommend none, just because it's another thing you have to maintain, another liability, another pain. So in a rental property, no. If in your personal property, if you would like a pool, by all means get a pool. But I wouldn't get one for my rentals.
I agree, Brandon.
Would you
agree?
I would agree.
Yeah, I would not want to rent out unless it's a large apartment complex of some sort. I would not want to rent out a house with a pool or hot tub or anything like that.
Yeah. I feel like, unless like the market dictated I needed it, like if I could get way more rent because every other house had it.
Well, that's true. Yeah. I'm coming from Colorado where nobody's got a pool. If you're in like LA, that might be another story.
Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah. Good point. Good. Cool.
Alrighty, well, let's head over to the last segment of the show, which we lovingly refer to as our
Famous Four.
Number 1, what is your favorite real estate related book, Craig?
And it really pains me to say this, but I gotta say it's the book on rental property investing that you wrote.
Woo!
I know it kills me. It kills me.
That's
but
great.
it was
This made my day.
Yeah,
it was the first. It was the first one I read, and so I got to kind of pay homage to that. And it's what got me into real estate investing started. And I used it too. I used it as I was buying my first property. I would look through the chapters and all that, and see kind of what the next steps were. So
love it.
Were there words on the chapters?
Lots of pictures.
Well, there's pictures. That's why I liked it.
Diagrams. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. That's
I
awesome.
I can't read good.
I
He's doing our finances.
this is a guy who doing some math.
Yeah.
Oh, we're in trouble. All right. Favorite business book. Yeah, you're like one of the things I admired about you when we interviewed you was like you're an avid reader. What's your favorite book and what are you reading now?
So
Business, non-real estate.
So the favorite non-real estate book. This was a tough one for me. Can I say two?
Yeah.
So the first one is
that's not appropriate.
it's against the rules, but
It's
I'm going
against
to bend the
the
rules
rules.
a little bit.
You work here. You can do that.
This is the Craig Show.
This is the
Craig
Craig
show.
show.
I say what's going on now. One is it's called Never Split the Difference. And it's basically it's a negotiation book, and it's an extremely interesting book about this guy, Chris Voss, who used to be a hostage negotiator, and he takes you through all of these hostage negotiations that he goes into and the tactics he uses, and then he applies that to everyday things like negotiating a car rental or negotiating a higher salary, stuff like that. And so it's a great book. I would recommend it for anyone.
I've been recommended that like 10 times in the past month, so I'm just going to buy it right now as you're talking.
You should buy it
right now.
You should be listening to me intently, not buying a book.
No, I'm buying. I'm getting it. I'm getting it on Audible right now.
Yeah, it's a great book. And then the second one would be the Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. It's kind of it's more of like a philosophical type book, but just a way to live a very great life and not have any stress and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of like celebrities and famous people have read that book. And Tom Brady is one of my idols, and he read it, so that's kind of why I got to.
Wow.
I read it, and so it was great. And he's also the best quarterback of all time, right, Josh?
Wow. Wow. Good for you. Good
By the way, I have not. I tried to read that one and I never got into it. I need to try again because.
You gotta try that again. Yeah. You didn't read into it? Oh, so good.
Yeah. I was listening to it and I only got like a chapter in, and then I like just got distracted and it didn't hook me.
Do you listen because you can't read, or
mostly? Yeah. Wow. All right. Well, we're gonna scrap this episode of the podcast. Let's find a new guest quickly.
Craig, what do you do for fun, man? I know you you play basketball. What else do you do besides not spend your money?
Yeah, so I like to be very active. I like to exercise, I like to hike. Traveling is my number one passion. I've been to over 25 countries now, so I kind of just want to keep building that list up. And yeah, traveling, hiking, exercise, just kind of being active.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
I just bought Never Split the Difference. So.
Wow.
Awesome.
Were you paying attention?
He talked about traveling, 25 countries. Look at that. I can multitask.
Wow.
All right. Yeah.
So special.
Good. There's actually no such thing as multitasking. It's task switching. If you've read,
I was going to say task
one thing.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. All right. Last question. What do you think separates successful real estate investors from those who give up, fail, or never get started?
I think the number one thing is just be willing to being comfortable being uncomfortable. Get uncomfortable and do those things that you're afraid to do, and just take that next step. And then those uncomfortable things will become comfortable, and that's how you grow. That's how you expand. That's how and so just get uncomfortable. I think that's the number one thing that people are afraid to do. They're just like to be cozy, like to sit back and rent apartments and watch Netflix and all that kind of stuff. But
yeah,
get uncomfortable.
Get uncomfortable. I like it. That's
going
to be my Instagram post today. Is going to say, get uncomfortable. Craig. Yeah. Is it, how do you say your last name? Curelop?
Curelop.
Yeah, you're definitely not good at reading. Curelop. Yeah.
You have a weird last name. It's like.
I know. I do.
Curelop.
Pretend like the E's not there. Curelop.
Curelop.
If people want to reach out and talk to you and ask you for advice, connect with you, whatever it is that they might want to do after this bizarro episode of the BiggerPockets podcast, how can they do that?
Yeah, so they can reach out to me on BiggerPockets. I'm on BiggerPockets all the time. Facebook is fine. LinkedIn is fine. I'm not very active on Instagram or Twitter, so if you reach out to me there, it may take a few days for me to get back. But yeah, any of those other options are great.
Cool. Perfect. Awesome. Well, Craig, thanks for coming on the show, man. Really appreciate it.
Awesome.
Lots of luck. And great job so far.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Love it. Love you guys.
Thanks.
All right, guys, that was Craig Curelop.
Smart dude.
Smart dude, man. I told you I want to have this guy on the show.
I know. You were like, we should have him on. I was like, no, I hate Craig. And you were like, come on. I was like, no, I hate Craig. Just kidding.
I know. I mean, he could be off-putting at times. I mean, he clearly insulted me once or twice.
I think me too, a few times.
Yeah.
I can read sometimes. Like as long as it's like the red fish, blue fish, white fish, red fish.
Hey, Brandon.
Yes.
If you reach on your right shoulder, there's like that would be your left shoulder. There is some kind of something right there on your sweater. Yeah, what is that? It's what you got there? It's kind of my OCD is kind of kicking in.
I don't know. It's
that'd be a sticker.
No, it's like a white piece of fabric. I don't know.
Toilet paper on your sweater. That's great.
I don't think this is toilet. I think it's like a sticker a little girl had. Anyway, thank you for OCD my shirt apparently. And
great show though, right?
Great show.
Great show.
Yeah, I like this idea. Like I said in the intro, the whole idea of like renting a car, that sounds kind of cool. And I was even thinking about the idea, like if that's a legit business, if you can rent your car out for, let's say, $30, $40 a day, could you buy a car on a loan that's like $250 a month for a loan and then rent it out for $1,000 a month or $800, $600? Could you buy a fleet of cars? I don't know.
So I was going to say a fleet, right?
Yeah.
What if you had 5 cars?
Yeah.
Right?
Could you rent all of it? I mean, that's like an interesting little business model. I don't know. Something worth. I wonder how insurance would work with that. Anyway, yeah. Again, I thought this show was awesome just from the standpoint of like, he's very proactive about pursuing financial freedom, and
creative.
Very creative. Right? Yeah, yep. And I love it. So, anyway, keep going, Craig. You rock.
Yeah, do it. Awesome. All right, man. Well, listen. Until next time, let's get out of here.
All right.
I'm Josh Dorkin.
Are you sure?
Signing off.
You're listening to BiggerPockets Radio, simplifying real estate for investors large and small. If you're here looking to learn about real estate investing without all the hype, you're in the right place. Be sure to join the millions of others who have benefited from BiggerPockets.com, your home for real estate investing online.
It's time for the Random 6. All right, it is time for the Random 6, of course. These are the 6 random questions we ask every guest here at the end of the show, just to get to know you a little bit better and get to know you from a non-real estate standpoint. So number 1, hey, Craig, I have a question for you. What do you value most? Free time, recognition, or money? That's a softball.
Free time, 100%.
All right. That was an easy one. Nice, I would have been mad if you said something else. I'd been like, what are you doing here? Come on.
Yeah. Right. What was the point of that whole show? All right. Yeah. Number 2, do you have any habits you wish you could erase besides that nose picking thing that you've been, doing?
I don't want to erase that one.
Good.
Any habits that I have that I would like to? This is kind of an awkward question to ask. I guess.
Well, since I was a boy, I always wanted to stop.
I guess one thing that I do, I guess, is I do spend a little too much on like gym memberships and stuff like that. So I've been trying to scale back on that, and I just haven't got there. How many
gym memberships do you have? I mean, like, so it's like most people have one. What are we talking about here?
Well, so I'll do CrossFit like 4 or 5 days a week. And that's like $150 a month. And then I'll do Class Pass, which is basically you go to multiple gyms around the area. And I like to do yoga once a week. So I do my yoga through Class Pass. And so I spend like $200 a month on gym memberships, which is probably more than the average person. So that's kind of something I'm looking to scale back on.
And it's paying off.
Yeah, can you take your shirt off? Is that what Josh is asking? All right.
I could take much of that.
Next
we'll
question.
get a lot more listeners. So I don't know.
Yes, we get a listener.
I guess listeners.
Wow. All right.
And he does our maths.
Yes, he does.
Yes. Brandon, next question.
Have you ever actually kept a New Year's resolution?
Actually, yeah. Every New Year's resolution that I've kept.
Wow.
I only
this year.
I did not have one this year.
Well, that's why.
That's why. Yeah. Well, actually, I stopped drinking. I guess that's kind of one.
Okay.
But the first one that I really had was like back in like 7th grade. I was like fighting with my mom a lot, and so I was like, I'm gonna stop fighting with my mom. And so I stopped fighting with my mom, and now we're really good friends. Nice. So
Oh,
That was kind of like the big one.
that's
Yeah.
great.
I read the
That's
other day,
great.
98% of New Year's resolutions fail. 98%. So
Yeah.
I believe that.
you're in the 2%.
2% of the
Yeah.
two that I've made. Yeah.
Yes. Okay,
Yeah.
good.
All right. What are the 5 apps that you need on your cell phone?
5 apps. The BiggerPockets app.
Woo.
That's, but Spotify is a big one. I like to go on. I use Facebook, the ESPN app, and does like Safari and Chrome count? Because that's where I do a lot of my.
Sure.
I guess Google Maps.
There you go.
Yeah.
There's 5. There's 6.
Yeah, there's
we'll call it
6,
5 because you
Yeah.
know that's how you normally do your math. But yeah,
Yeah, 5, 6. Yeah.
yeah, it's great.
You guys know,
Numbers don't count.
You want to know an app that changed like a huge part of my life? Like this is like legit. So it's an app called Moment, MOMENT.
Oh, yeah.
I think I've told
I
you
don't
about it. I
use
tell
it.
everyone about
It's
it.
on, but I don't like do anything with it.
Oh my gosh, I use it all the time. Here's what it is. It's an app that all it does is monitor how much screen time your phone is on every day. So for those watching a video, you can see like today I've been on my phone 18 minutes. Yesterday was the lowest I've ever had, an hour 30. I think that was probably the lowest. And then hour 52, hour 58. But when I started this, I was like 3 months ago. What do you got? You're 20 minutes.
20 minutes today.
Josh, you lose.
Yeah, when I started this thing, I was consistently at like 4, 5, 6 hours a day.
Look at the last couple of days.
3 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. Yeah, it's shocking how much time. Yeah.
Do you set like a goal, like a limit goal or something?
I do actually. Yeah, you can actually set a goal. I have the paid version. It's like $3. It's big money. Get the paid version. You can actually set a timer. So I have it go off at now. It's at 2 hours. If I get 2 hours on my phone a day, it starts like buzzing nonstop until I shut my phone off. So if I pick it up for something, it's just like buzz, 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 buzz. Get off your phone. Get off your phone. Get off your phone. And man, I've probably saved myself 2 hours a day of being on my phone. 7 days a week. Yeah, amazing app. So
I just find that I replace my laptop with my phone. So I do so much more with my phone that I would normally be sitting on a laptop doing. Yeah. But still,
I agree. But still, like I feel like the phone it's really easy when you're like with your family to pull out your phone, like instead of being with your kids, right? So what I found is like if I can't pull my phone out, I naturally am spending more time with Rosie and Heather. And that's probably been the most life-changing app for me this year. So it's called Moment.
You can change it to grayscale too, and that helps you not want to be addicted to it more. I don't know if you've heard of that.
I have not, but that's a good idea.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah.
So you make your whole screen grayscale, right?
Yeah. So that's what I do. So I don't feel like I'm not on it too much, at least not for long periods of time.
Wow.
Unattractive phone, huh?
Yeah, unattractive phone.
There you go.
Nice.
I like it.
Cool. All right, Brandon, next
All right,
question.
next question. What foreign language would you most like to learn and why?
So not including English because I kind of know that one. Spanish because I'm closest. French because I want to sound like everything I say is very romantic. Yes. German for when I get angry, and Mandarin because I just think it's very practical because a lot of I think it's like the second most popular. It might be the most popular language in the world now.
Crazy.
Wow.
Good job.
Wow. Well done. Last question. This is an interesting one. What job could your company not pay you enough to do, Craig?
Oh, this is a tough one. What job could sit on a beach?
Just say Brandon's job.
Yeah. I don't know.
I'll give you a better one. Whose
job at BiggerPockets would you not want to have? I would not want to. You know who I wouldn't have? Josh's job. Josh Dorkin here. He has the worst job because you sit in meetings like 30 hours a week.
Oh, it's a
horrible job. Yeah, being CEO is horrible.
It's horrible. Yeah. Honestly, I would not. I don't think I'd want publishing coordinator Katie's job. I just don't think I'd want to be reading the same book like 8 times. And then like I'm a one-time book guy. Maybe twice if it's the next year or something like that. But
yeah, I got you.
There
Awesome.
you
All right, Craig. Thanks.
Well, that was the end of the random 6. Let's get out of here.
All right.
Adios.
Cool. Thank you. Ciao.